So there was a little comment on one of my shorts recently, and it was about this person asked me, how do I create melodies? So I thought, it's best to just make a quick little video on it. Maybe not a very quick video, but I'm mostly gonna show three things. One is playing over a static chord. Number two is playing over a 2-5-1. Number three is playing over the jazz blues progression. Okay, so let's get to it. And actually, before we get to it, if you like what you see in my channel, please consider subscribing. That really helps. Consider sharing the video, consider commenting down there, considering liking the video. And if you have any further questions after watching this video, please feel free to comment down as well. Having said that, let's get into the video. So let's talk about melody first, right? So melody is not necessarily about just taking a scale and playing something. If I have to theoretically explain it, it's basically going to be somewhat of a mixture of intervals, rhythm, and some kind of a chord tone or maybe guide tone, basically notes which are related to the harmony that you're playing over. Let me just freeze a note. Let's say I freeze an E note, okay? So there's an E note. Now, you obviously need to know your scales for sure, but as you're gonna see in a bit, you can go well beyond that if you actually think more about your chord tones rather than the scales. So when I'm thinking of E, if I right now since it's just an E drone, I can pretty much do whatever I want to. Okay, I'm gonna start an octave higher so that the melody is clear. Let's say I want to play the root to it. Major second. Let's say I want to play minor third. Back to major second, major third. 5, sharp 4, 6, 5, natural 4, 6, 5, natural 4, flat 6, 5, and maybe just down from 4, 3, 2, 1. So if you hear this particular thing, right, it's almost like I'm playing against that particular drone and I'm creating moods rather than really thinking of scales, if that makes sense, right? Essentially it's a mixture of tension and release. Okay, release is when you're letting go, when it sounds, let's say, more resolved. Tension is when you are creating some kind of like you're stepping outside of this particular tonic. In this case it's E, and it almost sounds a little dissonant, right? But dissonant not in the sense of being unbearable to listen to, more like you're just stepping out of that tonic and then coming back. So tension and release. I'm gonna freeze an E major 6/9 chord, and then let's try playing a few things over that. Cool. So my notes for E major 6/9 is E as my root, G sharp as my third, then I have my B as the fifth, and then I have my C sharp as the natural 6. Okay, so those notes are gonna be E, G sharp, B, and the C sharp right there. Now as you can hear over this particular drone, these notes sound perfect, right? Now if I try approaching these notes, not necessarily thinking of a scale, but more of like notes with notes around these target notes. Let's say I want to target the third. Now I have a flat third to third option, I have a 2 to 3 option, I also have a 4 to 3 and a sharp 4 to 3, also 5 to 3, 6 to 3, flat 6 to 3, all of that. Even though some of those notes, for example the flat 6 is not part of the chord, because I'm using the note to resolve to one of the chord tones, it works. because I am gonna end up using those notes on a weaker beat and land on these particular chord tones on a strong beat. For example, let's say I think of rhythm: ta 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 ta. So as you saw, each and every one of those notes work over this particular major 6/9 chord, right? So I'm gonna stop the freeze now. Now, if it works there, then the theory is that it doesn't make too much sense to really think of scales, does it? It makes more sense for you to really know your harmony so well that you know your landing notes, that you should be able to hear your landing notes, right? And I'll get to the hearing part as well, because for me it really helps if you sing what you play. Okay, maybe let me just do a quick demonstration of that over the same E major 6/9 chord. Okay, so let's say I'm thinking something on the lines of I went a little overboard, I guess, but either way, most of the landing notes are gonna be related to the particular chord that I had freezed. I added some chromaticism in there. I'm not gonna go into details about those things, but I can tell you, you can, just go back to that section in the video and you'll notice that each and every one of those notes, apart from my target notes, were always on a weaker beat, which is what allowed me to get away with not thinking of the scales and pretty much disregarding the fact that an E major 6 is gonna be based around a major scale, which is not true, because an E major 6 can also work with Lydian scale. An E major 6 can also work with a Mixolydian scale, right? So what I would encourage you to think of instead of the scale particularly is more of like, treat each chord voicing as a set of target notes and then approach those target notes using notes around those target notes. That's a lot of target notes in one sentence, but you get the point. Okay, so that is playing over one particular static chord. Now what if you have some movement, a 2-5-1? I have a 2-5-1 looped up here in the key of C. Now we're gonna use the same approach where we're going to quite literally approach, like target the chord tones within the voicings that I'm playing, or notes related to those particular harmony, like that particular harmonic movement, which we're going to play along with. Now, in a 2-5-1, your chords are basically a 2 minor and then a 5 dominant and a 1 major 7. In this particular case, you will hear that I've also added a 6 altered. That is because that helps you resolve back to that 2 minor again, so that you have a nice little cycle going on. So yeah, sure, you're technically going to be hearing me play over a 2-5-1-6, but my main focus for this particular section is a 2-5-1. Now, if we're thinking of a 2-5-1, right, in the key of C, we have D minor 7th, G dominant 7th, C major 7th, and then I have added this A dominant 7 flat 13. Okay, that's what you're going to hear in the loop. Now, when it comes to a 2 chord, here we can actually consider the chord scale relationship to some extent, because the 2-5-1, like the 2 and the 1, are going to remain fairly diatonically connected to each other. The 5 and the 6, on the other hand, can very much be non-diatonic. In this case, the 5 I've kept it diatonic, but the 6 I have not kept it diatonic. The 6 is a secondary dominant that is resolving back to the 2 chord. So if I go by the chord scale relationship, a 2 chord is essentially a Dorian scale. Okay, so if I'm doing D minor 7 over here, that's basically a D Dorian scale. So that's the sound of Dorian. Right? And also that's how I've always practiced scales. I've just never played it up and down, up and down. It just doesn't really make sense to me. Never really made sense to me, but whatever. And for the C, since it's a major 7, you can assume C major scale, but you can also assume C Lydian. The reason why we can assume Lydian is because you only have the root 5, major 7 and the 3rd in this particular chord, right? All those 4 notes are also available to you in the Lydian scale. So even if I play a 6-9 over here, root, 3rd, 6 and 9, they are also available to the Lydian scale, right? In fact, if you hear a 6-9, you can pretty much get away with playing Mixolydian as well, because it's not there in the chord, so you can superimpose it over the chord, right? But anyway, what we're gonna do first is I'm gonna start this 2-5-1-6 loop, and I'm just gonna play over it. I would like you to observe what I'm doing, because I'm not gonna remember what I played, so you're gonna need to do that for me and for yourself. Observe what I play, but yeah, I can definitely guarantee you that my landing notes are gonna be on a strong beat, and any note I'm gonna use to approach those particular landing notes are going to be on a weak beat. And the landing notes in some way or the other are going to be related to the chords that I'm playing them over. Okay, so let's hear that. So that's my 2-5-1. Okay, 2-5-1-6. 1, 2, 3, 4. I also mentioned that it helps if you sing, right? So I'm not the best singer, but at least if you get the rhythm right, it helps, because when you sing, you pretty much know when to take a breath, which is one of the most important things about sounding melodic, that you got to sound like you're singing, right? It needs to be singable. So when it's singable, if you're running out of breath, you know that's exactly when you have to take a pause, and that's pretty much what you saw here, right? So there was a lot of stuff that I played, and you simply just go back to that part of the video and maybe transcribe some of it, analyze what I'm playing over the particular chord progression. Analysis is very important. Do that homework. It's important. But I'm going to mention a few things that I was thinking about. One is chromaticism. When I'm thinking of chromaticism, I'm not necessarily thinking bebop scales or anything of that sort. I'm really just simplifying it to the fact that if there's a whole step, I can always connect it with a chromatic passing tone. And there are going to be lots of whole steps in every single chord scale relationship. I'm going to give you an example of the D minor 7, for instance. The D minor 7, since it's a 2 chord, it's a Dorian scale, right? Now, if I play this Dorian scale in this octave, I got a bunch of whole steps in there. And the way I see chromaticism is, like I mentioned, you fill up the whole steps with a chromatic passing tone. I have a whole step from D to E. I have another whole step from F to G. I also have a whole step from G to A. I have a whole step from A to B. And then I have a whole step from C back to D. So now I'm going to play a bunch of lines using that. You go back to that section of the video later on, transcribe it, make it your own, steal it, don't steal it, give me credit, don't give me credit, whatever, just do something with it. Okay, so yeah, here are the lines. So that's chromaticism. Another thing I always look into while soloing is just simple hammer-on pull-off moves like it helps. It's a nice little very melodic thing to do, and it's a nice little ornamentation to use. Another thing you can always look into, slide into a note. That always works, right? Whatever. Few ideas. So these are some of the ideas that you will see when you try to listen back to that section and transcribe that. Now, what would be the best way to move forward and get even better? Play jazz blues. Okay, I mean, maybe start with your typical 12-bar blues, I guess, but eventually go to jazz blues, because I think that's one of the greatest ways to get into the idea of playing over changes and just become very proficient with playing over changes. So I also happen to have another loop already ready, which is for a jazz blues in F. If you want to know what the F jazz blues consists of, so it starts with the F dominant 7 as the 1 chord, then goes to the 4 chord, that's B flat, back to the 1 again, and then the 2-5, that's a C7 to F7, which resolves to B flat dominant 7. Then you go to B diminished 7th, which goes back to F dominant 7. That leads you to a 6 chord D dominant 7, or you may also hear A minor 7 to D dominant 7th. You know, they both work. And then you go like that further, actually takes you to G minor 7, that's your 2 chord, and then C dominant 7, which is your 5 chord, which leads you back to 1, 6, 2, and 5. So I'm gonna play the loop and I'm gonna call out the chords, okay? 1, 4, back to F, okay? 2, 5 to 4. Sharp 4 diminished, that's B diminished, to F, A minor to D dominant to G minor 7, C dominant 7, leading you back to 1, 6, 2, and 5. And singing always helps. Or whatever. So that was a lot of stuff. Whoops. So yeah, I almost slipped and fell. Anyway, that was a lot of stuff. So go back to that part of the video, transcribe some stuff, analyze what I'm playing over, whatever. And what I'll say for whoops, why do I keep hitting things? And what I'm gonna say about that part is you definitely heard a lot of the ornamentations that I mentioned earlier. But what you also probably heard is more rhythmic ideas, right? Now, just a few things to keep in mind while you're working on these things. In terms of rhythmic ideas, I think I'll probably need to make a separate video on that, just because that is a pretty, huge umbrella of work. But I can give you a few things to look into. Number one is 16 notes. Number two is triplets, quarter note triplets, eighth note triplets, 16 note triplets. Number three is eighth notes, of course. Number four, the most important, swing. You gotta swing, okay? What else can I look into? You can try looking into different kinds of variations of these subdivisions that I mentioned. Like for example, if you take a triplet, right? my triplet is going to be, let's say I'm doing a triplet within a beat, right? So takita 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 triplet 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 triplet. Now what if I cut out the first note of the triplet and I only sing the second two? So triplet 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 pullet 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 triplet 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 takita 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 kita 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 takita 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 takita. Or maybe let's say I get rid of the middle note. So takita 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 ta kata 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 katakita takita 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 ta kata kata. Right? Same thing you can do with the 16 notes as well. Let's say instead of just doing takadhimi, 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 you remove the first note. So kadhimi, 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 takadhimi, 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 kadhimi, 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 takadhimi, 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 takadhimi. That ends up creating quite a few variations of stuff, right? And it really makes things a bit more interesting. So what I would suggest is turn on a metronome. First of all, feel that rhythm, feel that groove, and then take one note on the guitar, apply it, these rhythms that you come up with, improvise with the metronome using just one note. Doesn't have to be over a chord, just one note with the metronome and your creativity of rhythm. And then eventually, once you start feeling rhythm, once you start grooving with rhythm, go and apply that over these chord progressions. And I think that's the greatest advice I can give you, because that's really a lot of work. So yeah. Now, I think this concludes today's video. If you like what you saw, if you like what you have been seeing, if you're new, then, well, I'm Shubharaj Ghosh. I am a guitarist and music educator. I work on improvised music. I also play with a bunch of people here and there. And I live music. I teach music. I make YouTube videos. I love guitars and I love teaching. So if you want to take private lessons with me, get in touch with me. My details are in the description box below. I'll also add it somewhere on the screen. You'll definitely see it. And for those who have been here, consider sharing the video. For those who are new, you also share the video, please. It helps. And consider subscribing to the channel. Consider liking the video. If you have any further questions, if you want more clarifications, consider commenting down below. And yeah, I'll see you in the next video. So hope this was helpful. Bye bye.